Now, contrary to what Biden would have everyone believe, both within the US and outside, there is a southern border crisis. And the crisis will become more intense now that Title 42 ended. Now, Title 42 was a measure that allowed border agents to remove illegal immigrants quickly, and it was put forward by Trump in order to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Now, before we say more about this, you can visit our website. For only £5 a month, you can have access to all our premium content, and you could watch videos such as Debating Classical Liberalism, which is a really interesting debate that we had, and it has generated really good comments. And
the debate clearly isn't over yet.
It isn't over yet.
We will be revisiting this.
Okay, yes. And I think it's really good, and it's in a way really close to what we will be discussing, because it seems to me that one of the main problems that some versions of liberalism had is with being in favor of unrestricted freedom of movement. This is something that you could say that liberal cosmopolitans have completely failed the people with, and they are actually putting forward completely illiberal tactics now.
Well, this is also the point at which libertarians have arrived at. They can't even conceive of the understanding of the nation state as being collectively owned by the people of the nation. And so they've arrived at such an atomized individualistic position that they can't understand why it would be desirable to not have mass immigration.
Yes.
And I see libertarians arguing this point all day, and I'm just like, right, okay, well, that's yet another good reason not to be a libertarian, in my opinion.
So basically, in a nutshell, my position is that in order for people in the center right wing to go forward, I think we need to understand more our values, and we need to have a much more sophisticated understanding of what it is that we value and how to go about it.
One of the things, sorry to go on about this for so long, but this was a really important discussion. And one of the things I think is important is for the conservative to be able to identify the liberal presuppositions in any of the arguments they're about to have. Okay. For example, when it comes to mass immigration, that presupposes that essentially we're all the same and that we all derive from the liberal idea that there's a kind of universal human, and we can all, via the magic of the blank slate, end up as being basically exactly the same. Now, a conservative would say, no, that's nonsense. And actually, there are a great number of there's a great amount of social baggage that people carry with them, and they can't unsocialize themselves from it, and they can't get around it. And therefore, there are other concerns. But this is something the liberal is totally blind to because of what they assume.
And I think that the goal at the end of the day is to formulate a good idea of a community and how this integrates into a system of value. Speaking of communities, how is El Paso doing? Let us watch the next video. This is the crisis that allegedly does not exist.
This is liberal presuppositions just being detonated right here. Oh, all humans are the same, really? No, really not. All of the cultural habits that these people bring with them, they're not going to get rid of them. And you can see the difference. Different value sets. What do these people value? They don't value clean streets, do they? They don't value individual propriety. Like, total nonsense that multiculturalism was. Does it look like these people can maintain the United States?
I mean, the thing is, the whole idea is that we need to think about what communities are and how they can be maintained. Now, one thing, if you go on Twitter and type border and go on videos and just scroll down a bit, if you can just walk and have some images of things like that. For instance, we can watch here the southern crisis that allegedly, the southern border crisis that allegedly does not exist. If we can scroll down a bit and down here, you get an idea.
But just as a quick aside here, I really mean it about the difference in cultural temperaments, essentially. If this was Germans trying to get in to the southern border of the US, the streets wouldn't look like that, right? They just would not look like that. It wouldn't be like just rubbish everywhere. The Germans would be fastidious about the cleanliness of where they are, just because that's what the Germans are like. German streets are incredible, actually.
Yeah.
I lived in Germany for 8 years, and I never saw any amount of rubbish on the streets. We're not that neat and tidy. It's really annoying, actually. But it just would not be like this. But they are like that because they don't care. They come from a culture where that's not a value, and they bring that with them. They don't care. They didn't build the United States. They don't care if they turn it into an absolute rubbish pile. It doesn't matter to them. We're not the same.
Let's click the next link, please, which is an article by the European Conservative. U.S. record-setting migrant surge as Title 42 ends. I read just from the beginning of it. The Biden administration and the left liberal press in the U.S. have drastically downplayed, if not outright lied about, the surge of migration last week, which saw tens of thousands of migrants cross the U.S.-Mexico border illegally as Trump's pandemic-related Title 42 asylum restrictions expired at midnight on Thursday, May the 11th. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency has reported that 83,000 migrants illegally crossed the United States southern border with Mexico last week alone.
In 1 week?
1 week.
God.
This is...
That's mad.
This reminds me of Greece in 2015 when Syriza opened the borders and we had a huge influx of people, close to 1 million in a year. It was maybe more. Now, let's click on the next link, please. It's a video by Hakeem Jeffries. Let's listen to him.
As is often the case with my extreme MAGA Republican colleagues, they create a fictional argument around what's happening at the border, and then actually do nothing to solve the real problem. And that is exactly what the Child Deportation Act is all about.
So I really don't know details about what goes on with child deportation, I must say, because I don't know them. But there really is an issue with the border, and I think if you type border on Twitter, you'll just see it. So another thing, Biden had nominates an ambassador to Jordan, who, as you will see, is Mrs. Yale Lampert, who was grilled by Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee. Let's watch the next link.
Chairman, I'd like to stay on the topic of Jordan, if I could, Ms. Lampert. Is border security important?
Senator, thank you for the question. More security for Jordan or?
Border security.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, Senator, border security is very important.
Do you support physical security measures like border walls?
In Jordan, Senator?
Let's stay on Jordan.
I think I would have to defer to the Jordanians whether they think that such measures
Well,
would
we're
be
spending
useful.
American taxpayer dollars for border security in Jordan. Are you familiar with the president's budget request?
I am, sir, in terms of moving forward border security in Jordan, yes.
$110 million is requested in the fiscal year 2024 budget to include border security for Jordan. And you request that, you support that request. I just want to make this clear.
I do support that request.
Okay. Hasn't the United States government built a giant wall along Jordan's border?
On the border
With
between
United
Jordan
States taxpayer dollars, has the U.S. government built a wall along Jordan's border?
The U.S. government has worked with Jordan to enhance its border security in a variety of ways, Senator.
Let's be clear. U.S. taxpayer dollars have been deployed in this regard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And as our nominee, you'd be responsible for overseeing future funding in this regard. Is that correct?
That is correct, Senator, if confirmed.
In fact, the omnibus last year provides for at least $150 million for border security in Jordan. It's a large amount of taxpayer dollars. And if you think about the purpose of this, is to provide physical security, to keep people from illegally crossing into Jordan. Isn't that correct?
It is to provide physical security to stop drug smugglers, to deal with the threat of Jordan's neighbor, Syria. Obviously, the conflict there continues, and it's a dangerous neighborhood.
Well, I would think that if the funding request that's been put in place for the coming year is the size it is, there must be a belief that this sort of funding is important and that this sort of physical security is effective. Is that correct?
In the Jordanian context, I do believe that that is correct, Senator.
Well, you've been very clear to talk about this in the Jordanian context. I just think it's an important lesson for us to learn as Americans that we're spending United States taxpayer dollars.
I think we could
to
pause the
support
video
border
here.
security.
And
Okay, that was amazing, right?
yeah,
Like all of the problems that she lists that Jordan may be having with Syria are exactly the same problems that America is having with Mexico.
Yes.
Like northern Mexico is cartel central, apparently. Drugs, guns, and terrible people come across that border, and you could see the total weaseliness of that woman, where she's like, "Oh no, I have been completely caught." The borders, in principle, are they worth having? Well, yes, for the case of Jordan, which means yes, of course, for everyone. And we are actually spending the money to build Jordan a big, beautiful wall. And of course, and I don't know why this is something that Americans have had to debate. Obviously, walls work. Well, that's why we've been using them since, well, actually, Jordan. Like the foundation of the city Jordan, actually, which is like 9,000 years ago, had a wall because walls work. We've always known this.
I think it was a brilliant video.
Yeah,
because
amazing.
It's almost that I don't know
What weasel she is.
I don't know what Biden picked when he picked her as a nominee, because he seemed to have common sense. At least you can see that she understands that what she says is the principle of it is correct, that you do need borders, but she tried to hide it, but she didn't have the classic woke temperament that many of the people have, so bad pick maybe for his purposes, but
you can tell she'd been completely outflanked there, and she's just like the contradiction is on bare display, and she's a massive hypocrite, and everyone can see it.
So and also I think the Senator Bill Haggerty did an amazing job in not getting frustrated.
Just
he's
calmly
also calm and
through.
flat and just state the obvious. Okay, now the thing is that you would expect people to protest about it, and let's click on the next article by the Daily Mail. So it says, we need to be taken care of first. Chicago community, where 97% voted for Biden, react furiously after finding out 500 migrants are heading their way.
Only 500, and they're furious. This is another Martha's Vineyard situation, isn't it? It's like hardly any of them have arrived, and they're livid.
As some claim they have been bumped off housing waiting lists.
Oh, the big peak NIMBYism here.
Yes. So the thing is, the next video we're going to watch is simultaneously tragic and comic.
Right.
I'll let you watch and we'll discuss it.
All of these resources that have not come to us, now you want to overly compensate for people who never lived here before, and we need to be taken care of first and foremost before anything else happens here.
Why would any leader put our black communities already riddled with crime at further risk by placing unvetted non-taxpayers steps away from our seniors, our children, and our homes we've worked so hard on our own to secure?
We are at war, people.
I agree.
Our communities are at war. They are violating our communities, and we asking that we across the country, and we asking and we're demanding for office of Black America, or whatever you want to call it, to deal with issues like this.
I did get placed on a wait list, but I was told that the immigrants was taking priority. See, that's a story that a lot of people don't know, and it hurt me. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I understand we need to be humanitarian, but these people my participants are third and fourth generation Chicagoans, born, bred, fed, and raised here. My grandmother, Mayweather Carrington, rest in peace, always said, Craig, charity starts at home first, and then it goes abroad.
Politically, having over 500 people in our community would completely wipe out any interest we have.
Many of these migrants have been dumped in our neighborhoods without a plan in place to monitor and house them long term.
I'm not selling nothing. And I keep telling people,
that
we
big
don't have to
library
move. If you sell, they gonna come in. If we don't sell, we gotta stand strong and go.
That's right. You're just getting started, people. I'll just get started.
I love the community spirit.
Yeah,
but I agree with everything that they're saying.
But that's the why it's tragicomic. And
yeah,
because
you did vote for Biden.
Yeah, that's the point. Simultaneously, it seems to me that they're right. They do. They are in sync. Let's say with
I totally agree with
the spirit of most people nowadays who understand that it is community as a value that is being compromised by you could say liberal cosmopolitanism and rampant and extreme multiculturalism. But on the other hand, they voted for Biden.
Yeah, they chose it.
You cannot say that he wasn't exactly clear about what the agenda he was putting forward.
I'm going to end Trump's racist border policies.
Yeah.
Well, he did. And now you've got 500 migrants living in your small community.
And one thing I want to ask, because this is imagine if the people who said the following list were actually white people. So the list is...
Well, then they'd be racist.
Resources should be given to us because we have been living here before them.
Yep.
We need to be taken care of first and foremost because before anything else happens here. Why would any leader place our communities already ridden by crime to more risk by placing undocumented non-taxpayers steps away from our seniors,
that's a great
children,
question.
and our homes?
Great question. If only we had an answer, Lisa Nandy.
Yeah. Another thing, I did get placed on a wait list, but I was told that immigrants have priority, and it hurt me.
Wow, it's almost like we've got a limited amount of resources that have to be shared amongst a set number of people, and if you increase that number of people, the resources become more scarce.
Yes. So, and when he talks about hurt, it's an issue of sentiment.
Yes.
It's not just that, I got, it was a long list and I couldn't, fulfill the chores of the day. I got, stuck with red tape. It hurt me.
But I totally agree with them. Like, they are being betrayed by the people who they voted for. But I mean, we all have been at this point. So welcome to the club. Nice to meet you. We're the far right. We just want our countries not to be subsumed in an unlimited number of foreigners.
And the argument at the end, because I think that this is actually it. They put the argument well. They said, I don't know how many people are in that community, but I guess especially due to being afraid by the number, it's not a very big community. But one of the final claims that was put forward was politically having over 500 migrants in our community will wipe out any political interest we have.
Yeah, very interesting.
So imagine if we say it's not the issue of 500, it's the idea of how many people you have from different communities without cultural continuities who are placed in a particular area.
Yeah, because if it was like 50, they probably wouldn't complain that much.
Yeah.
They probably, well, it's not that many.
Yeah. So what if people who said these things were white? The answer is obvious. Okay, now let's go to the next link. We see that Texas governor...
Based black xenophobes will save the rest. Sorry.
Sends migrants to Kamala Harris's home once again.
Good for them.
Yeah. Next link, please. And let's go to Florida. Now, there was a new bill that Ron DeSantis signed. And I don't know if everything is finished with it or there are still steps to be taken. But this is, you can check the bill if you are interested in more detail. Let's go on the next link.
What does the bill do? Sorry.
So it does many things.
Right.
It tightens up Florida's immigration policy.
Okay.
And as we will see in this article, I will just read down from the strengthening employment requirements. You will see exactly what it does. It says, if we go a bit down, here, okay, strengthening employment requirements. So it says, several sections of the bill outline strengthened employment requirements, including employers are required to verify a new employee's employment eligibility within 3 business days after the first day the new employee begins working for pay. Private employers with 25 or more employees must use the federal E-Verify system to verify a new employee's employment eligibility starting on July 1. Public agencies are also required to use the E-Verify system to verify new employees' employment eligibility. Employers cannot continue to employ an unauthorized immigrant after obtaining knowledge that a person is or has entered the country illegally. So it has various penalties. So, for instance, it says that there may be up to $10,000 fine for every undocumented immigrant on the businesses that they work for, and it also increases penalties for human smuggling, and it basically is supposed to work as deterrents for further immigrants, and it's supposed to work from July the 1st. Now, it's a complex piece of legislation. These are let's say, some of its highlights, but let's talk a bit about some of the issues that have been raised about it and some of the concerns. So the thing is that from what I checked, there are many people who say that it's going to hurt Florida's economy because there are around 500,000 farm workers, and estimates are that 60% of these farm workers are illegal immigrants. And they say that this is going to create a massive hole in our economy, and this is going to create, let's say, something like food shortages and momentary instability. Now, there are various things that people claim. Let's watch the next video.
My conversations with anyone is not, are you documented? You know, I mean, that's not at the, but yet this law now makes it a priority for all of us, not just law enforcement, not just immigration people, but all of us to be able to have to put that barrier, that prejudice.
Oh, right. So Mexican man wants more Mexicans living in Florida.
Well, the thing is, there are laws against illegal immigration. I mean, that goes without saying. And
but it's totally exploitative. These people don't have access to any of the legal protections that employees have against employers. They are literally at the mercy of these employers. And it's bad for them.
I think that the issue is that if we follow down this rationale, we will see that it eventually leads to the position that even asking for someone to be shown documents, that it constitutes a kind of disrespect. I just don't see this.
No, I don't care if it does or it doesn't.
And there's a further element here, because the thing is that there's a question of what you may be about to take measures and implement measures that seem to be, let's say, anti-popular or something. In this case, I don't think it's anti-popular, but let's take that scenario. There are crises that need to be, let's say, dealt with. So when you are about to deal with a crisis, the measures that you're going to take will not be, let's say, as popular as they would be I mean, they wouldn't be popular in other circumstances, but that doesn't mean that there is no border crisis.
Yeah. And the problem is, though, the Biden regime has been ideologically wedded to open borders.
Yes.
The whole time. So now it's a total humiliating reversal.
Yeah. And let's watch the next clip.
That is not the republic for which I served as a veteran, and that represents liberty and justice for all. And that application for all is not happening.
For all didn't mean for every human on the entire face of the earth. That for every person in America.
Yeah, that sounds a bit imperialist.
It is a bit imperialist.
Yes, it's like there is one state, there is one, global government, and everyone is going to be treated as a subject of that global government. And if there are any distinctions, there's a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, literally anyone who's not within the United States is now under the mandate, the future mandate. What was when they were conquering West? What was the phrase they had?
Which where?
In America, when they had a particular phrase. I can't remember. I'm sure you're going to be screaming at me. I know exactly what it is, but it's for some reason I keep wanting to say mandate of heaven, but that's not what it is. Manifest destiny. That's what it is. Right. Well, he's setting up there as the manifest destiny of the United States to just basically incorporate the entire world So, because the all has not been all American citizens, it's all mankind. And it's like, okay, well. Yeah.
And I think that this is a problem with liberal cosmopolitanism, is that it doesn't recognize communities. And the point is that we have, let's say, elites of liberal cosmopolitans and radical leftists who embrace, a very radical leftist progressive ideology, they are in agreement with respect to communities.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand why people value their communities for the very reasons that we showed you the people from Chicago talking about. They just can't understand this, and they're really hesitant to this. And the thing is that with the media, the way that they have been using them for years, they are basically trying to say that, no, anyone who could value community is a problematic person. There's only the human community, the abstract human community.
But this comes back to our discussion about liberalism and how this is the presupposition, one of the presuppositions that underpins the metaphysics of liberalism. They only view each person as an atomized individual, and that is where everything gets broken down to, until you have a universal atomized human race that is indistinguishable, where one person cannot really be distinguished from another.
I think that to the extent that they do this, they're really problematic, and that they cannot understand the complexity of human valuation.
But I think that's inherent in liberalism.
I think we can have liberalism with borders, but let's keep that for round two. But one final thing to say because it's I think it's interesting here, is that we very frequently hear an argument about the economic impact of some measures that are supposed to aid communities.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that this is exactly where, let's say, the conservative side needs to get its affairs in order.
Yeah.
In that, if we are to value communities, we have to move past the paradigm that is just let's make the whole planet one market and don't understand this. So
they need to divorce from neoliberal economics.
Yeah. So even if some measures are going to be economically are going to cause economic trouble in the short term, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be carried through.
This is entirely my argument about Brexit, and always has been.
Yeah.
I don't care if it makes us richer. I don't care. It's not about that. And I'm very tired of our countries just being literally just economic zones in which lines must go up.
And in which every value is just going to be understood in monetary values.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And these are the arguments that people like that put forward.
Yeah.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. And if you want to support the work we're doing, you can sign up to the website and watch videos like this. This is Symposium number 18, Debating Classical Liberalism, where Stelios debates in favour and Carl debates against. And if you want to find out what Stelios is doing, you can check out his Twitter here. Thank you very much for watching.